This episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
I'm Jason Klaus. And over the course of my life, I've done a lot of different things, and I've worn a lot of different hats. But this may be my greatest endeavor yet. On this show, we are going to focus on life. We are going to focus on the basic fundamentals. We are going to focus on the silver lining. Because no matter what happens, no matter what is thrown our way, there is a silver lining. There is a lesson to be learned. Sometimes we just have to look a little bit harder, a little bit deeper for it. That's what this show is all about. Sometimes it's going to be rough, sometimes it's going to be raw, sometimes it may be hard to listen to, but it's something that you need to hear. This just got real.
And now, the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network presents its flagship show, the Klaus to the Heart podcast. Here is your host, Jason Klaus.
Hey, we welcome you to the Klaus to the Heart podcast, the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network. I'm Jason Klaus. I certainly appreciate you tuning in here tonight. We're kind of putting one in the can or getting ahead of the curve a little bit with this, and this is why we're actually recording part 2 of the brutal truths. You will have heard, this coming Tuesday, if you're watching the live stream on Facebook or YouTube or at Riverside.fm, you will hear that this coming Tuesday, if you didn't watch the live stream. So this is actually going to follow the following week. So we're getting ahead of the curve a little bit. Try to, get some wiggle room in terms of the schedule. It's hard to say what kind of, feedback this is going to get because, when you're tackling things that are kind of in an aggressive nature, people are immediately going to respond one way or the other. And, this is when you really initially get a feel for a portion of what makes a person tick on a very fundamental level. It's a part of their being. And, you can't help it. They can't help it. When we tackle topics like this on the show, it is not uncommon that I get a little bit of blowback because, the way I go about things and what I put out there in terms of personal examples. I mean, that's what a lot of people, gravitate to because that's real life. That's not a script. You could not have scripted a portion of this bullshit that I call my story. But it's part of the story. So when I read things like this, and a lot of part 1, a lot of those entries I was reading for the first time. That was real-time reactions. Some of them I probably could have used a couple of minutes to really think about and dial into, so I gave a more in-depth breakdown of it, but it is what it is. That's, life isn't always going to give you moments of time to to collect your thoughts, although in a lot of cases you really have to make the effort to make that own time, to make your own time, especially if you have, if there's a part of your defense mechanism that makes you get a little loud and boisterous, whenever there's some degree of conflict or controversy or an argument, something like this, you really got to take a moment or two to think about what you say before you say it. Words are, I've said it a million times, words are among the greatest weapons that we have at our disposal. We can literally make or break a person based on our words and how they're used and in the way that they're presented. So there was a lot of this list that I read last week and broke down where it was, very applicable, and things that I had not yet incorporated in terms of dealing with life. It made me think about things, made me do a deep dive on myself and try to evaluate how I go about shit, just to make sure I'm doing it the best way possible without compromising myself, my beliefs, my thoughts and opinions. Not everybody's going to agree. I'm not going to agree with everybody, but that's okay. That's part of being human. That's part of having, an opinion. That's okay. We don't have to agree. It doesn't mean we have to sit there and throw gloves and, go a couple rounds. It doesn't have to get to that level. On the other side of things, people are, they're coasting through life, expecting handout after handout after handout, expecting the world to hand them their happiness on a silver platter. I don't know from what faucet they're drinking, but there is an awakening coming at some point. And they are just not fundamentally, mentally prepared for it, because they're living or have lived or been allowed to live in a fantasy land, where everything just kind of magically happens or magically appears. They don't have to work for shit. These are really self-entitled individuals that have become, in some cases, notorious on various social media platforms, specifically the ones that come across my radar on TikTok. And it's just, what the fuck? Is this how people really operate? And it's absolutely crazy to me that they legitimately feel like the world owes them something. And I don't mind telling you that there is a maniacal part of my brain that gets some degree of satisfaction whenever I see the other shoe drop. Because everything's on camera nowadays. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's got a camera literally in the palm of their hand. The world is documented. And we get to see some of these gems, man. I'm here to tell you that it's something special, something special. But we're going to try to avoid such levels of embarrassment for those individuals, although it does lead to a chuckle or two. Just, but we're going to look at the second half of the brutal truths, and for the next 10 here, I haven't read all of them. I skimmed. You know, there were those key words that popped out. I'm like, yep, okay. The rest of them are going to be, you know, much like with the last episode, real-time reaction. So this will be a good time. Now, I also want to make mention, since we are indeed live streaming this right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Riverside.fm, if you are on the Facebook feed, there should be a link in the live chat. If you click on that, jump through a couple of Riverside's hurdles, it will bring you into a virtual waiting room, and you can be a part of the show live as it happens. Or if you have other, you know, if you don't want to be on camera or what have you, but you want to correspond with the show, the live chat is open. Feel free, and you know, let's have a discussion. Okay, part 2 is going to kick off with ships that wait for the perfect wind will never be able to set sail. A lot of this shit is pretty self-explanatory. But I can appreciate this one because I use like water, ocean, as a metaphor for life, right? It's an easy description. You get the point. You know, there's not a lot of wiggle room there in terms of understanding what the meaning behind that particular story is. But for me, I can think of a handful of examples of opportunities that I let pass me by or slip by because the entire environment wasn't perfect. And when I had that feeling that something wasn't perfect, that made me feel extremely vulnerable because self-admittedly, I'm something of a control freak, you know, especially when it's something on a very public level. And, you know, with things like what MWO was and what this network is now, it's, you know, that the line between personal and professional blends. And if I don't feel like I have full control, like I freak the fuck out. Then I sit there and I get pissed because I'm like, man, what if I had just rolled the dice on myself? What if I had taken that chance? I also let the fear of failure be the dominating thought process. Nowadays, not so much. I will keep throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. And a lot of it won't stick. But every once in a while, something will. And it makes it all worthwhile. Some of it's a risk. Some of it's a gamble. Some of it is out of the comfort zone. And believe me, man, like I had residency in my comfort zone because I had full reign and control over it. I don't do that anymore. So if you're sitting there waiting for the perfect opportunity or the perfect moment in time to start embarking on something, now obviously you got to have certain ducks in a row. You know, those things that are extremely consequential in a personal level of your life. You know, reach for the stars, but don't, abandon everything that absolutely is like priority and responsibility. You got to make sure that that's squared away. But once all that's locked down, listen, the answer will always be no unless you ask. Number 2 here. Fear will never stop death. It will only ruin what's left of your life. Fear will never stop death. It will only ruin what's left of your life. That kind of really ties into what I just said in relation to the waiting for that perfect opportunity. Fear is a funny motherfucker, man. It is such a powerful emotion. I know it's easier said than done, but I remember having a conversation in my early 20s. I was very early on in promoting the wrestling company. And I remember this guy telling me, don't ever be afraid to succeed. And I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, man, that might be one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard. But then I thought about it, and as I started to gain some traction, things were getting thrown up where I'm like, oh, this makes sense now. Because there was so many aspects where I was afraid to succeed. I was afraid of getting too big and then not being able to sustain that. And then that fall would be even more damning, right? But I also realized that, that mentality was the biggest obstacle in the growth of the organization. And how can I put so much into something, mind, body, and soul into something and not fully give it every opportunity that it deserved, and that the roster of the men and women who performed what they deserved. You know what I mean? We let fear completely derail us. We let fear keep us from moving forward and taking us down these doors of opportunity that are popping up, that, because we don't know what's on the other side of that, for one reason or the other. There's a million of them. Reasons, excuses, however you want to label it. You gotta find a way to rechannel that energy. And that's exactly what I do. And let me tell you, it works on so many levels. If you reshift that energy from fear and let that fuel what you're trying to do, almost in a defiant way, as if like sticking your middle finger right into the face of life. It's like, mother, you are not going to derail me. You're not worth being able to lay claim that you derailed me. And people will take that one way or the other. Here's the thing about it. I really, truly, and sincerely, wholeheartedly, unconditionally, and unapologetically do not give a fuck, if I can be honest with you. Because I'm not saying this is the gospel. I'm saying this is my experience. Everything seems impossible unless you actually give it a shot. Roll the dice on yourself. Have enough self-respect for you, for your happiness, for your goals, for your dreams. Rechannel that energy and let that shit fuel you in the ultimate way of telling your haters, of telling your critics, of telling the backstabbers in your life, telling life itself without saying one verbal word. The fact that you flourish and that you rose above is the ultimate fuck you. Because it wasn't anything that you said. It was everything that you did. And everything that you did is a stark and damning reminder to those who talk the most shit of what they are not and what they are incapable of doing or being, because it's easier to condemn those who are flourishing than actually putting in the work to flourish alongside. I just had this conversation 2 hours ago, if that. So I'm glad that an opportunity popped up where I could bring that on the air. Number 3, you will never be able to heal in the same environment that got you sick in the first place. Holy fucking shit. That's as brutal of a truth as there's going to be on here. Your environment is one of the most powerful and influential aspects of your situation. And if that situation is not good, if that situation is poisoning, quote unquote, any aspect, mind, body, or soul, there's got to be a change of location. There's got to be there's got to be a shift. And anybody that is in a place that is creating some degree of damage, physically, emotionally, mentally, you're never going to be able to heal when you are constantly surrounded by the shit that's messing you up to begin with. And I get it. Don't say it. I know there are situations where people are stuck. I understand that there are situations where a plan has to strategically be put in place. You got to get some ducks in a row before you make a big change like that. I get that. But it's at least got to be in the works. Because if you're complacent in just staying in that environment, you're never going to get better. You're never going to heal. Making that jump might be a little scary because you're not sure, where you're going to land. But you ain't going to be in the same environment that fucked you up to begin with. You feel me? Number 4. Nothing is worse than avoiding your full potential. Let me say that louder for those in the back. Nothing is worse than avoiding your full potential. There is one, I just read, this is one I read for the first time, and one person immediately popped up in my mind, and I'm like, people who avoid their full potential, a lot of times, the reason why that is, they're in some cases, on some levels, they are afraid to succeed. Not because of what could happen in terms of a fall from grace or what have you. It is because they are surrounded by people who are the ultimate. I'm trying to be real respectful here. I could take this and I could take this down a rabbit hole that just would not be good. It would not be good. People will avoid their full potential to avoid conflict, potential drama, tension. And a lot of times it is within members of their family, their best friends, their inner circle that's supposed to be their ultimate cheerleaders. Instead, they are the ultimate miserable sacks of shit that they are. Because it kills them to see anybody succeed. Why? Because I mentioned this a little bit ago. People hate to see other people succeed because it reminds them of everything that they're not. And they're going to form a narrative that makes that person who is, achieving some degree of notoriety or success, it makes them the bad guy because they're flourishing, because they're climbing up the ladder, because they're achieving their goals and their dreams with hard work and dedication and everything that they're fucking lacking, because it's easier to sit there and talk shit and condemn people than to actually put the work and effort in to achieve your dreams. I have zero respect for people like this. I got nothing for these individuals. And me personally, and this is one of the things I get criticized more often than not. How can you just cut people off? Because my inner peace is fucking worth it to me. Right, wrong, it doesn't make a fuck all. It's my decision. If I decide that, it doesn't, nothing else matters. My inner peace is too important. My desire to achieve my goals and my dreams will far outweigh trying to drop myself to somebody else's level because I may be worried that my success may trigger them. That's a them problem. It ain't your fault that you have these talents or you have this ability to do something and they're stuck in neutral. They put themselves there, man. They are at this level, you're up here, and you're going up, 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 up. For me, I'm done dropping myself down to people's level. Either they come up to mine or I'm out. I'll call it what you want. I got one shot at life, man. Just the same as you do. And, I know I have avoided my full potential. A lot of it ties into, that fear of success. Other people, they will keep themselves at a certain level so that they don't get too far away from the rest of the pack. And that's not fair either, because they're worried about how the lower tier is going to respond or react or what they're going to post or say, or, it's crazy to me. But it is one of the most understandable things that, like, I read this, I'm like, yeah. Like I said, one person immediately popped to mind, and like, if she was to really just open Pandora's box and unleash her full potential, holy shit. It would be something incredible to see, without a shadow of a doubt. But up until, like recently, she kind of kept herself down on this level for one reason or the other. Well, I have a feeling that time has come to an end. Once you take step one onto that solid footing, you're off and running. Okay, number 5, real wealth is having absolutely no health problems. Real wealth is having absolutely no health problems. There's not a whole lot I can add to that. Not a whole lot it's pretty cut and dry here, black and white, right? Having good health is priceless. We're surrounded, and we know of people, we read about people who are just, they're dealing with a variety of challenges health-wise. It's like you can't go on to a news feed without somebody sharing the news or sharing an obituary of a loved one or friend, family member who has passed away. Every single day you see something like that. So if you're in good health, man, like that's a blessing. I look at, with myself, like I'm 49 years old, and but I don't feel like I am. I feel like I'm 30 years old. My body tells me, oh, you really can't get as high up on the drop kick as we used to. So, um, but especially after having wrestled for 28 years, you would think that I would be broken down. But, aside from a handful of, mishaps, like I, I didn't really suffer any long-term injury. Like I said, a couple of things here or there, but I know other people who are my age, and it is a 30-minute struggle just to get out of bed. Their knees are blown, their shoulders are popped out, their spine's out of whack, their neck is crooked, ankles are fucked up. I mean, I get it. So if you're in good health, man, like that, if I were you, I would, take a moment, acknowledge that every single day. Save every stone thrown at you. You'll need each one to build your own castle one day. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, this is the ultimate fuck you. This is the ultimate way to really rechannel that energy. Because like I mentioned a little bit ago, a lot of these stones are going to be thrown at you by friends and family who are threatened by you, jealous of you, envious of you. That is what forges these stones that they're throwing. And absolutely do you save every one of them. Don't dwell on it. Because with every one that is thrown at you, you set it off to the side. You start with every one, man. Put it in place. Put it in place. And the next thing you know, as you continue to move down your particular journey, and you're collecting all of the rocks, you're going to start to see your castle taking shape. Every angry word, every jealous action, every egotistical thing done to you is going to fuel your journey. Instead of listening to the reasons why they're telling you can't, use that as, yes, I will. I know a lot of that approach is easier said than done. I know, and I've heard it many times, that I don't understand. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know this. You don't know that. I don't need to know the specifics. There are extenuating circumstances. I'm not an idiot. I know that to be fact. But a lot of people dwell on the word can't. Can't is you won't, or you don't know how. And if you don't know how, there's things out there that will teach you, that will show you. I don't know what the fuck can't is, unless it is just impossible in every conceivable way. That is the only time I use the word can't, is when everything else has been exhausted. Nobody works harder than someone who dislikes asking another for help. 100%. Absolutely. 100%. I hate asking for help. I will do it all if I can. Look, ego is a big part of that. I also worry just because of, previous encounters. Like, I hate asking for help because I feel like there's like a tally being taken. Like they're keeping track of how many times they have lent me a hand, and we'll bring it up later on down the line. I can't stand that shit. If I'm going to help you, it's because I want to help you. It's because I have the time and the opportunity, the resources, the know-how, whatever, to help. Just because it's helping you out. No more, no less. So anybody that keeps track of how many times an individual helps them in an effort to use it later on in line as some sort of leverage tool, let me be the one to tell you that on that particular level, you are, without a shadow of a doubt, an asshole. A disingenuous prick. Straight up. And yeah, those who are willing to, I don't even know if willing is the right word, those who will do all the work if they possibly can, those are the hardest working people you will ever know. I promise you that, especially when it's something that they're passionate about. There could be some control issues in there. Like I know that's when I set up for anything for the network in terms of a live presentation, whether it's a stage show or, on location live streams or recordings or what have you. I'm very much hands-on in everything. That's the way it was with the wrestling too. I tried not to use that as an example because it's just, there's just so many moving parts to putting together a wrestling show. The ring itself was nothing short of 50 fucking pieces, and some of them are extremely heavy. The entrance and the audio and the video and all that shit. I had to have help. I couldn't do that on my own. There was no way I was doing that on my own. But you look at the work ethic of an individual who's willing to put that kind of effort into something, and you can use that as a measuring bar and hope you can obtain that kind of work ethic. Number 8. Never be scared to start again, because a new start can lead to a newer and better story with a different ending. That was an extremely long-winded way to say that. but I feel like I've touched on this a couple of times earlier. There's a number of ways we could take that, you know. But, you know, the common thing is the fear aspect again. You know, a lot of people don't, you know, they're scared to make that transition, that new start. Could be a new job, could be a new location, could be a new relationship, could be a new anything. Opportunity of some sort. But you never know what can happen at any given moment. Like the stars align or the universe, you know, comes together, like whatever the hell you want to call it. God Almighty, you know, put pieces in place that were supposed to be however you want to say it. But there are going to be those opportunities where, you know, something or somebody is going to come into your life when you absolutely least expect it and change everything. Hopefully for the better, but there are aspects where it is not sunshine and rainbows. It is tsunamis, incredible thunderstorms, and an earthquake just to swallow everything up at the end of the day. That does happen. But let's not focus on that part. So if you have an opportunity that pops up, that comes up, that, you know, is in front of your face, and you're like, really take the time to weigh out pros and cons. And if the pros edge out the cons, you're still, you know, you're still really wrestling with yourself on whether you can or should embark on this. Just know that for whatever reason, that opportunity popped up then and there because it was meant for you to see it for a reason. And it could lead you to the absolute best chapters of your life moving forward. Number 9, the truth will only set you free once it is finished with you. The truth will only set you free once it is finished with you. That is a pretty goddamn ominous. And I guess that ties in with 10 here a little bit. Honesty will not let you have too many friends, but will definitely let you have the right ones. See, now that one I can get behind. That one I can get behind 100%. If I know a lot of people, I have a lot of acquaintances, I have a lot of colleagues. I wouldn't say I have a tremendous amount of friends. And of those friends, there is a very tight, unique contingent that are, you know, at the center of my inner circle. These are the ones that I would trust. I would trust my life with. I would trust my children's life with. Okay, and that's not something you just throw out there. I mean, some people do, but they're shit parents, so it's not even worth mentioning. But seriously, and these people are there in my life like that because I trust them. I trust them on levels that occupy the most important aspects of my being. Now, there are some individuals who feel like they have to have as many friends as possible in life because, for whatever reason, they put more stock in quantity over quality. These are also the same people who have 3,582 friends on Facebook. It makes them feel good. I've got 3,000 friends. Is that right? Well, tell me when the last time you took a trip over to Hong Kong was. I mean, what the fuck are we doing? My friend Sean uses this as an analogy. Like, they're collecting friends like people collect Pokemon cards. Like, what the fuck are we doing? But that's what they put their value in. Now, of those people, how many of them would you hand $500 in cash as a challenge? Mark them. Hand it to that individual and trust them that they will bring you the same $500 back a year later. Use that as an exercise. That's trust on one level. The people who display honesty, and in some cases the brutal truth, they're going to be few and far between. But those who are there, you're going to know without a shadow of a doubt that they're going to have your back no matter what, through the good, the bad, the ugly. And when you start using that as criteria for who's really your friends in life, you'll start seeing so many drop off the wayside. Not because they're necessarily bad people, but there is some degree of concern. We'll just use that. They're not checking all the boxes. Not to say you can't have them over for, the holiday barbecue or what have you. I mean, that's on you. But you can damn well bet I'm not putting my kids' well-being in their hands. I'm not going to give them a key to the house and for them to let the dog out while we're on vacation or feed the cat or whatever. I don't have a dog or a cat, doesn't even matter. But you get the point. And no, I don't want one, so don't ask. I am hopeful and confident that everybody that listened to part 1 and or part 2 will have been able to take something away from the brutal truths. Kind of put shit in perspective, back in perspective in some cases. life is a funny thing, man, because we take so much for granted. And we take advantage of so many people and opportunities and situations that it is so easy to forget what is truly important in life. And sometimes we gotta be jarred back to reality. And it doesn't have to be anything as dire as the passing of a loved one. It doesn't have to go that route. A lot of times that's what does jar people back. It takes something on that level. Like, oh, my God in heaven. And then they'll tell you, I am going to do better. I'm going to reach out more. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be a better person. And you have the best intentions for about 4 days. And then it goes right back to your normal routine, your normal behaviors, your normal everything. Just now fueled by a tremendous layer of hurt and loss and all of that. Sometimes it's difficult to hear the brutal truths, but we've got to hear them from time to time. We've got to be reminded of what precious time we have and what few opportunities pop up and why it's so important that when they do emerge, you're there to answer the door. Or you're there to open the door, or you're there to walk through, or whatever the case may be. It is incredibly important. And here's the thing, man. Life is going to continuously to throw obstacles and challenges in your way as you embark in life. And like I said on the last episode, the closer you get to your goal, the harder shit's going to get. It just is. But it's testing you for a reason. Life is going to continue to test you for a reason. This is what separates people. This is why successful people become successful, because they find a way to rise above the other ones. They're done. They've hit a roadblock. It's knocked them off course. It's too much to get back on. They abandon. Unfortunate but true. You know, it's one of the reoccurring themes on this show is, you know, if it's worth having, it's going to be worth fighting for. You're going to have to put the work in. And it's going to suck at times. If it was supposed to be easy and fun, everybody would be a success. Everybody would be doing it, but that's not life. Those spots are reserved for the elite. Those spots are reserved for people who are more than motivated, more than inspired, more than willing to put the work in. It's that and then some. So yeah, sometimes shit's a little hard to hear. It hurts our feelings, it hurts our ego. But I promise you it'll be okay. You may have to change things here. You may have to tweak something there. You may have to reevaluate your whole life and make some tough decisions. But Isn't your happiness worth it? Isn't your peace of mind worth it? Isn't it your internal peace worth it? I can sit here right now and tell you abso-fucking-lutely. I put myself through the shitter. Absolutely I did. But I also came out on the other side of that a hell of a lot more knowledgeable than I was when I went in. A lot of life lessons learned that I do. I incorporate into this very day. Sucks I had to, the path took me down, or the path that I chose took me down. I take full responsibility. But don't get it twisted. I don't regret anything. No, I don't think that's accurate. There are some aspects I really could have done without. But taking the first step onto on the path of a new start, that was 100% on me. And I don't regret that. Because making that step, even though I went through it, let me just say that, it also took me to where I am here and now. And where I'm at here and now is, by and large, I am in a really, really, really good place. But I was willing to roll the dice on myself. I was willing to do whatever I had to do. I had to do it. And I did. And that's pretty much that's what brings us up here. So, I can relate to a lot of this. And that's why when I say a lot of this shit, I get told, oh my God, it's not that simple. I never said it was going to be simple. I'm just telling you your options are way more exclusive than you think they are. You're just overcomplicating shit. And a lot of that is based on fear. But I get it. Change is a scary thing, man. But as long as you continue to keep your focus on where you're wanting to be, where your promised land is, once you get there, I promise you, it will have been worth every step of the way. So with that, we're going to go ahead and put a bow on this episode. And I certainly appreciate everybody that tuned in, checked it out here tonight. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, anything of the sort, you can hit us up over on the Close to the Heart Facebook page, the PFC Entertainment Network Facebook page. closetotheheart@gmail.com is our email, or go to pfcnetwork.net. With that, go out this week, be awesome to yourselves and to each other, and we'll see you next week right here on the Close to the Heart podcast, the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network.